that's the sound of another Badminton Talk podcast. Today it's Saturday, the 25th of September. Mark, hard to believe. How are you?
I am very tired, John Noble, and I'm blaming you. Why? At the QWAG tournament, or not the tournament, the practice event in Badminton yesterday.
Yes.
You put me on for 5 matches in a row. I had my watch on. It was 67 minutes I was on the court, John Noble.
Think of all the calories you burnt, Mark Topping, for your Worlds coming up in December. I tell you, you were like a 10-year-old boy on that court. How did you do? How many wins did you get?
6 wins, 2 defeats, and 1 draw.
Wow, that is almost winning a tube of Q Gold, but I believe Louis had 10.5 wins. I think he's won the Q Gold.
How did he get 10.5 wins?
Well, because he didn't finish the last one and he was ahead.
We'll give it to Louis Lyons. Well done, Louis Lyons.
Yeah, well done, Louis. Well, today we want to introduce you to somebody new on the Badminton Talk podcast. Mark, are you excited about this player?
Absolutely, John.
Do you know this player?
I know this man very well.
Has he got a good has he got a good reputation?
Yeah, absolutely. A very generous man.
Okay, well look, we will just lower down the music and we'll give this person a little bit of an introduction. Okay, so Mark, do you know how this works? I'm going to play a little bit of music and you're going to see if you can kind of guess maybe what the clue is, okay?
Okay.
So let me just do one thing now and shut all this down. Okay, here we go, and here we go. So here's the first piece.
Take me away from the city and lead me to where I can be on my own. I wanted to see you, and now that I have, I just want to be left alone.
Okay, Mark, so that is clue number 1. Any guesses?
That's Bagatelle, isn't it, John?
Bagatelle, yeah, that's right.
A classic song. I don't want a melody about somebody leaving Dublin.
Yeah, summer in Dublin, that's right, yeah. Leaving Dublin, yeah. Would that give you any clue to...
Well, the Badminton Talk podcast listeners will have to think about that one.
Okay, right. So let me play then another piece. Normally I don't do another piece. This is a little bit more... I'm sure this person will admire this little bit. So you listen very carefully, okay?
And I'm starting from now. So, how to win friends and to influence people. So I'm reviewing that situation. I must quickly look up everyone I know. Titled people with a station who can help me make a real impressive show. I will own a suite at Claridge's and run a fleet of carriages and wave at all the duchesses with friendliness as much as it befitting of my new estate. Good morrow to you, magistrate! I think I better think it out again.
Right. I'm looking at this person here, perplexed with this. So I think I'll think it over one more time. Someone really good at plotting, someone really good at strategy. Not, of course, a villain. I was just taking a little bit of poetic license there.
Yeah.
So who are we introducing today?
Okay. Well, that is an interesting one. Will I have a go at introducing our guest?
Yeah.
Who is our guest tonight? Well, in my view, we are very fortunate to be able to interview a legend of Irish badminton. I knew him as a player way back in the 90s, who, among many assets that he had on the badminton court, but the first thing that I really remembered about this man... Okay, who is our guest tonight? In my view, we are very fortunate to be able to interview a legend of Irish badminton. I knew him as a player who had many assets, but probably 2 or 3 that stood out for me were, number 1, this man had a very attacking mindset. He believed the best way to win a badminton match was to get on the attack and maintain it. Some of his signature shots people will remember his jump smash. Very good mover on the court, very powerful in the legs, could jump a huge distance and hit very, very hard. Also, actually, the one thing that it was very deceptive. Michael, this guest, had a tremendous ability to generate power, particularly in the mid-court area, with absolutely virtually no backswing. And this was an incredibly deceptive shot that he had, a really good technique. This man hails from County Tipperary and played 102 times for the Irish badminton team. An incredible achievement.
Right, okay, that's 102. That gives you that's 3-digit numbers. Okay, sorry, Mark.
His time at the top was really from the late 1980s right through the 1990s.
Yeah.
He played in 4 World Championships or the Sudirman Cup. He represented Ireland at 5 Thomas Cups. That was really the World Team Championship in those days. He represented Ireland at numerous Helvetia Cups.
Which they don't do anymore.
Don't do anymore. He used to take out the top, I think, 8 nations, and so in some ways it was the next nations competing for the title. I'm sure there's a story in that later. And as well as playing in many European championships. This man has won 7 national men's doubles titles with 4 different partners. He represented Munster Badminton at under 15 and under 18 level and at junior into pro level. When he moved to Dublin for work, and once he qualified by residency, he represented Leinster at senior into pro level and English into counties. After an amazing playing badminton career, he turned to badminton coaching with great success and is now a Badminton World Federation Level 2 coach.
Fantastic, Mark.
That's a real achievement.
Very few players in the country have that.
And very few people have that level of coaching qualification. This man is the current Irish under-17 national coach and has just returned from Slovenia at the recent European under-17 championships. Also a former national under-13 coach and is also a head coach for Nina Badminton Academy. This man has also, for me, volunteered so much of his time giving back to Irish badminton, an absolute generous person, very generous with his time, and would help anybody out with any badminton project, big or small. Fantastic. And I just want to say a huge welcome to the Badminton Talk podcast, Mr. Michael O'Mara. Welcome, Michael.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
There's an introduction, Michael. You must have been falling asleep listening to that. There, we can see Michael on Zoom here, so you're lucky as well to our listeners. Michael, how about that for an introduction? And he hasn't even talked about your daytime job.
Yeah, listen, it's a pleasure to join you guys. I think it's fantastic what you do in terms of promoting badminton, and it's something that's long overdue. So yeah, I'm delighted and honoured to be finally asked.
Well, Michael, listen, there's only one O'Mara, and I'm looking here in Wikipedia. You have Mara's O'Mara, Mara, M-A-R-A. Mara is the Irish surname, Anglicized for O'Mardra, originating from County Tipperary. And I'm looking here, Mark, look at the list of O'Maras. Look at all those famous people there.
Oh, yes.
You know,
quite a lot of O'Maras.
Quite a lot of people. And one of the ones to pick out is Mark O'Mara. You know Mark O'Mara, Michael?
Yeah, my cousin from the States. Yeah, go for it.
That's right. Born in 57, won a green jacket. The Masters,
That's right.
Highly talented. Then there was a singer-songwriter, Joe O'Mara, from the UK, born in 79. Very famous. And back in the day, back in the poets' back in 1614 a David O'Mara. But Michael, you know, when you have a surname O'Mara, you know, what else do you need in life, you know? But anyway, Michael, listen, delighted you are on the Badminton Talk podcast. God, I could barely say it. I'm getting so excited here with Michael. Of course, sponsored by the Q Shot. So, Michael, you know how this works, yeah? We want to go down memory lane with you. We want to, a lot of our listeners, we have a lot of young listeners too, so they'll see you out and about, they'll see you giving coaching tips and advice, but they don't really know who you are, where your career started. So we want to kind of go back to the very beginning. So, Mark, I'll go with question one.
Yeah, go for it, John.
Okay, so Michael, when was the first time you saw a badminton hall and took a badminton racket in your hand? How far back? When did you actually start, and where?
I was probably about, I'd say, maybe 8 years of age, and where I'm from is a small village called Ballycommon, which is just outside Meena, the provincial town of Meena. It's a small village, and the only thing that was really there was a tennis court and a small, what they call Winton Atira Hall, which there aren't too many left, and it was a one-court hall. It was extremely low, to the extent that you simply couldn't lift at all. And that probably, I suppose, it's no coincidence that I ended up playing doubles and being good at the flat play, because that's all you could do in a hall that was that low. So, yeah, I was probably about 8 years of age.
So you're the same vintage of Peter Ferguson. He said the same thing, low halls. That's how he became so tricky. Same thing, Michael.
Yeah.
You know, Peter Ferguson, we had him on many months ago, and there's this thing about low halls. When you think of the National Indoor Arena in Dublin, and even that wonderful facility in Limerick, close-ish to your neck of the woods, Michael, if I can say that, and you have nice big arenas. How much would you prefer to play in those halls back when you started? Would you know? Just think, you know, perhaps maybe you wouldn't have been as good with your doubles if you did.
Well, I think the other thing is I started playing with a tennis racket because we didn't have a badminton racket, so I would have spent a lot of time playing in a low hall with a tennis racket, so no surprise that I ended up being pretty good in a flat game with a powerful forearm. So I think you're a product of your environment, and it's no surprise I ended up playing kind of doubles and mixed, you know.
And was badminton, Michael, your first sport? Did you kick a ball? Did you dip into the swimming pools? You know, I mean, did you play tennis? Was it, you know, why was the badminton your choice? Was your father play? Your mother play?
No, literally the hall was 100 yards from my house, and there was a tennis court outside, so I've always played tennis to a decent level, but badminton was just a sport that I suppose my first time I really saw anybody playing was my uncle David Searson, who played on the local first division team, and you know, if we were good children, we'd get to come in and sit and watch him play a first division match. So that was probably the first time I saw badminton actually played, was my uncle David Searson.
Right. So you were one of the good people. So you got to see.
I was a good boy, John. I was a good boy.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, Mark. That's a good intro. Any counter question, or
no. That actually.
We see where he started off on.
My question too was really who encouraged you to start in badminton, and who were your first coaches, Michael?
Oh, that's always a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose my who encouraged me to start, I mean, your family always encouraged you. My parents were always very just encouraging in anything we wanted to do, whether it was tennis or hurling or badminton or whatever. And I suppose my uncle was very encouraging as well. And I remember he gave my brother his first racket, which was a wooden tennis racket in one of the old presses that he put in to keep the head straight. But my first coaches, I would have to give credit to Mary and Tony Seymour, who still live locally in a place called Annabeg, which is just a mile or two outside Ballycommon. And Mary and Tony would come up every Saturday, and they really kind of organised us and arranged us and got us started in tournament badminton, if you like, particularly in Tipperary underage.
And were there a group of you in that hall?
Yeah.
How many do you remember? Some of your people that you played with?
Yeah, listen, I remember plenty of them, and some of them, like my brother Connor, who was captain on the 15 national level. there was most of the people we went to school with. There was a good chunk of them there who would have played badminton at county level and community games and stuff like that. So there was a number of us. All right.
Did you play any other sports when you were young?
Yeah, I always played hurling and football with my local team, Kildangan. Played a bit of soccer and I played a bit of tennis as well when I was a teenager, and that was really it.
Very good, very good. And I mean, I'm big into the sort of badminton techniques. How do you believe you learned your badminton techniques? Because I've always thought you were a very technically good player throughout your time.
I'm not so sure I would claim to have been a good technical player. I had certain talents and strengths, and I played to them. But when I was young, I mean, when you look at a coach was somebody who organised you and took you places, but nobody ever showed you how to play, a forehand slice or a smash or a net shot, or you didn't get any. There was no technical training in those days at all, unlike kind of what's available today with Badminton Ireland. So you kind of learned from the school of hard knocks, if you like.
Yeah, well, that sounds a similar story to me. You just had to learn on the job. I always watched top players. I was always fascinated by watching the best players. If I went away to a tournament, I would always watch the end of the tournament, what techniques they were doing, and try to copy them. That was the way I learned.
Yeah, no different here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, everybody has their kind of mentors, We had Tony Robinson was Georgina Ward. Do you remember she said Tony was her person? Some people it's the father, sometimes it's the uncle. I think of tennis and it's Nadal, Uncle Tony.
Yes.
So, and I'm quite sure, Michael, you're inspiring many of our juniors over the last number of years. You've been, involved out in the European scene, been with you in a few of them, and I always hear such positive things about Michael O'Mara, and I think you're just a very what's the word I'm looking for? Just you kind of just give back so much, Michael. Never look for too much, and it's great to be able to talk to you here tonight on the Badminton Talk podcast, sponsored by, of course, I was looking for that button all along. I can do it now. The Q Shuttle. Michael O'Mara here, 102 caps, unbelievable senior caps, Mark. That must be close to a record. Yeah. And also I wanted to, I'm going to go to that question. I'm very curious to find out Michael's 4 different partners in the double, so we'll make sure we get to that question at some stage.
Well,
okay,
we'll cover that later, John.
We'll cover that later. Okay, so next question is, Michael, talk to us about when you started to play for Munster. Because we know that's you're a very passionate, Irish player, provisional player down in Munster. How old were you when you started, and how long did you play for Munster? Because it was very interesting, the introduction, Mark telling us about you played for Leinster and Munster. But let's start with Munster.
Yeah, I would have been 13 playing in the under-15 into pro, and I would have played doubles with my brother who was a year older. And I think the first time the other 2 lads were... I remember it correctly, a guy called Shane Switzer and Michael Stack from Kerry. So that was the first time I would have played into pro when I was 13. The following year I would have played with the likes of, you'll be very familiar with Tom Reedy.
Yes.
Tom and I are lifelong friends from the age of 12. So after that I would have kind of partnered up with Tom Reedy at under 15 and also under 18 level. So I played for Munster at under 15, under 18 level.
Yeah. And how many years, Michael, did you end up playing? Was that 3-4 years with Munster? Was that about?
Probably about 4 years, because I up until under 18, so 4 years.
Yeah. And you also played in the junior into pro team.
I played in junior into pro team. I got capped 1 year, and actually felt quite strongly that I should have been on the team, and in my opinion, I should have been. But they told me that you'll have next year. And when they came to ask me next year to play, I said, I'd love to play, guys, but I can't. And they said, why not? And I said, well, do you remember last year I told you this would be your only chance to get me to play? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, it is, because I can't play for you. They said, why not? I said, because I'm now a senior player. Oh. So that was something back then that was a little bit sweet for me at the time, because they didn't pick me. They stuck with the old guard. And look, that's the only reason I got to play for Munster once, because I won a national title and got graded senior.
Yeah.
So I've only ever played in one junior and pro.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. They always had a policy: if you won a national title, you were immediately graded senior, and that would take you out of the junior interprovincial series.
Yeah, that's quite tough, isn't it? For that to happen. Yeah.
I think it's very fair, John, because if you're winning a national title at senior level, you ain't a junior player, and you shouldn't be playing junior. Simple as.
What age were you when you won your first national title?
I was 18, and I remember chatting with somebody down in Waterford in the Trona complex, like Brian Harris, who played for Munster, maybe Leinster, and he's living in Skibbereen to this day. I met him about a year ago when I was on holidays in Skibbereen, and we had a coffee, we caught up. But I remember him saying to me, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to play senior international. That's what I want to do. And he said, well, you're going to have to get to Dublin to do that. And I said, well, maybe not. And he said, why? And I said, well, the Nationals are next weekend, and I think Tom and I have got a really good chance. And he said, well, look, who knows? And we did. We actually won the Nationals the following weekend, and we got picked to play at Helvetia Cup in Belfast.
That's an incredible story, Michael. My God. At 18.
Yeah, two 18.
Yeah, I was 18, Tom was 17, and the thing that not many people know, and I chatted to Tom about this, but in the first round in the Nationals, in the old scoring rules,
that's right.
Tom and I were 7-14 love down in the very first match. And two guys, I think one of them who you'd know, Simon Thompson, Mark, himself and his buddy went away because they thought the match was over, and they came back and they said, who's in the doubles final? And somebody said, it's Chippy and Robert are playing Michael and Tommy. And he went, no, that's not right, that couldn't be right. And they said, yeah, Michael and Tommy got through, they beat Phil and Ricky. He said, absolutely no way. And he said they were 7-14 love down when I left. So somebody up above just wouldn't let us play until we were 14 love down, and I don't think we lost another point after that. And in those days, you see, you had to get the serve to score, and then you had two serves. So if that was today, you obviously wouldn't come back from that. But we came back from a 7-14 love down in the very first round. So I just think it was one of those things that was meant to be,
Destiny, yeah. It reminded me, Michael, of the time when, you know this now, been a Red Devil fan, 1999. George Best is watching Alex Ferguson out in the European Championships, whatever it was called, and a couple of minutes to go, and he decides, we're 1-0 down, we've lost, and he heads off, and by the time he gets downstairs and outside the stadium, Man United have 1-2-1. Destiny.
It ain't over till it's over.
It ain't over till it's over, yeah. That's one good memory from Man United. I won't tell you about the 10-love penalty shootout of a recent time. We'll keep that one quiet.
You've actually got the memory wrong. It was that was Barcelona in 1999. I'm not sure if Best was even around then. I'm sure he was. But yeah, lots of people left the stadium 1-0 thinking it was over.
Yeah, that was the one. That was 99. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's well, you've proven that on the badminton side of things there as well with that story. Wow.
And Bill Thompson. Who did you beat? Bill Thompson and Ricky Cake?
No, in the semi-final we beat Bill and Ricky.
That was a good win.
Hall, as it was known as then. And in the final we beat Chippy and Robert.
Yeah, that was a very good win because Bill and Ricky were, I think they were regarded as the number one by a long way. But they would probably been the favourites to win that tournament at that time.
Absolutely, yeah, unquestionably. But look, there you go.
Yeah, well done.
Youthful exuberance.
And what turned it round, do you think? When you were 14 love down, what can you remember? What brought that result around?
I genuinely don't know. I just remember it being, we were just not able to play. It was like we never played the game before, and we couldn't even serve. I don't know. And suddenly it clicked, and we didn't. I think we lost 2 or 3 points after that. That's all. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Brilliant. Absolutely amazing turnaround.
But it was the old score system, so once you had control of the serve, so you might have had a few exchanges, but even having said that, it's incredible. It is incredible.
But you would have thought a pair of Bill and Ricky's experience, they would have maybe had 2 or 3, they probably had about 6 serves.
It wasn't against Bill and Ricky. It was in the first round. We played Bill and Ricky in the semi.
All right. Oh, so this is in the first round. I'm misunderstanding completely. Yeah. Do you remember who you were? The names of the players?
Go
I think it
on,
was Simon
mine's hard.
Thompson and somebody else.
Yes,
I
Simon
think
Thompson.
Simon Thompson was one of them.
Yeah,
Can't really remember. Ian Gurley or somebody, I don't remember.
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. I remember Simon Thompson and Ian Gurley. Yeah,
Yeah, that's Simon Thompson who still plays on the Master Circuit. Yeah, is it?
he
Yeah,
has played a few times.
Kind of has the white hair, the white. He's kept himself in good shape. He's still. I know he still plays a bit of singles too, and he's very dogged, very dogged. Great. So Michael, tell us about your. When did you come to Dublin? Just to tell our listeners, because I often associate you, Michael, because I remember you from back in the day with Aidan Murray training in CYM. Seen you in many tournament in Whitehall Road, at your absolute best. So always kind of associated you around Dublin. But then all of a sudden, you moved down country. But so when did you come to Dublin? What age did that fall into your career?
I came to Dublin just shy of my 20th. It was March 88. And the funny story was, I got a job with AIB, and I went to my training course in Dublin, and the question around the table was, where were we going to be stationed? And everybody had it that we were going to be stationed in the West. And I had said that I wanted to be in Dublin. And somebody said, no, Dublin is filled. So anyway, they came in and they gave us all our letters. And mine said, AIB Lynch's Castle, Galway. And straight away that didn't work for me. So I had an option of doing PE then. And at that stage I was thinking of, maybe I'll just do PE because I'm not going to Galway, because I couldn't really train or play badminton in Galway because there was very few players there.
Yeah, that's not what your mind for sure.
I think I spoke to Vera Marin that morning, who Vera, you would know very well. Vera worked in the Sports and Social, and I said, Vera, they've put me in Galway. Vera said, really? And I said, yeah. I said, Vera, I can't really play badminton, and I certainly can't play for the bank team if I go to Galway. And she said, leave it with me. So the guy from the sports club came in the afternoon, and he looked at me and said, I'll talk to you later. And he came down and he said, we're going to send you to College Green in Dublin instead. So Vera's intervention there helped me to get to Dublin.
Do you see how it works, Mark? Do you see how it works? I tell you, those morons, Mark,
Network.
Not just good badminton players, but good networkers. Yeah. Between Pat and Ita, and who was it? There was Patrick. He was a Donald. He was a good hurler as well as a really good badminton player, wasn't he? Yeah. I know. Yeah. We're talking about Michael O'Mara here tonight on the Badminton Talk podcast, but just nice to kind of throw in some different names. So you finally came to the capital, Michael, yeah? And what happened then? Like you stayed here for how many seasons or how many years? With obviously in your professional career was really important, so you managed that. But for was it a decade?
Well, that was 88. I eventually left Dublin in 2006, but my first club, as you remember, John, was the old CYM in Terranure. And John, as I always tell your lovely wife, I say I knew John long before you did, because John and I used to run together in CYM many years ago. I could never keep up to John, but he was somebody who I could kind of aim for in the distance up ahead of me, Wow. So I played in CY with the likes of Niall Gannon and Shan, Jim Carfer, people like Colin O'Neill, people like that. And I stayed there. As was Aidan Murray was ahead of his time in terms of his approach to badminton and physical training and techniques and all of that. That's funny. I saw somebody recently, one of the top English players, Lawrence Smith, and what they'd done was they'd taken a newspaper, an old style Irish Times newspaper, and they'd put it down over the net so that you couldn't see. And then somebody feeding shuttles from the far side, which meant that what you were doing was you were hitting the shuttle blind. And they thought this was fantastic. And I remember putting up a post saying, we did this 25 years ago with Aidan Murray and CY.
Mad, isn't it, Michael? Unbelievable. So how ahead of the times. I mean, you talked about Aidan Murray, who I know does listen to the podcasts here from time to time. I mean, he was at every single tournament you could ever imagine. I remember in the 80s, he was always there giving great advice and encouragement to the players. He was fantastic, and there was no messing, so he was ahead of his time. And I remember other players there like Joe Ruddy and Willie Cotter and names like that, Michael, you might back to throwing some names in. I mean, some of them not playing, and others maybe their kids, the next generation took over. But great memories of that. Absolutely, Michael. You weren't a bad runner yourself, just to say there. You give me a bit of praise there. You were okay, though, but your reflexes on you had the twitch muscles, Michael.
it was painful for me, John. I was just doing it because out of necessity, and you kind of had to if you're in a club with Aid. And listen, it was good for our fitness back then,
Totally. Oh no, absolutely. It was just the mindset. Yeah. So okay, that's so that was 1988 to 2006. So that was a good stint, Michael. Do you want to continue that phase at this stage, Mark?
Yeah, talk about that. Yeah.
So that was a really good period. So what then? Just again to our listeners, did you retire 2006, Michael? Was that the
no? I was gone long before.
You were gone long before that. Yeah.
I retired at the European Championships in Sofia in '98. So that was my last time. I kind of felt I'd had enough at that stage, and I had plans on going back to college and doing some business studies and stuff like that, which I did. So May '98 was when I actually retired.
Right, so you're 23 years retired, if we can kind of do our maths here. We're not sure what age Michael is, but we'll put him somewhere in the 50s, would we? Absolutely. Or something like that. So you retired relatively young if you look at Roger Federer is still playing at 40, Michael,
Well, if you look at two of my sporting heroes, and I think they are setting new standards, and they're breaking boundaries in terms of normally when you head for the big 3-0 historically you'd be thinking, okay,
that's true,
I better be retiring soon. But you've got Roger Federer, 40 years of age now. You've also got Cristiano Ronaldo at 36, still scoring at the highest level.
Yeah, so playing for Man United, Michael, bring him up there, Mark. But go on, Michael.
We didn't know what we know now in terms of how to train, how to eat.
Yeah.
I think there's an awful lot more knowledge around now as regards how people train, how they eat, nutrition, sports science, and it facilitates longevity, particularly when you look at how to, recover from your training,
Yes, yeah. No, and I think, Michael, as you mature in your game, you kind of play more selectively certain tournaments, so you manage your physicality too on the recovery, which is fine. Yeah. Like so you don't, instead of playing maybe 20 tournaments a year, you play 10, and you're looking after yourself. So it's quite interesting. A lot of the players who we've a lot of the past players and legends in badminton, including Michael O'Mara here, they never went back to the game. Once they retired, that was it. If you think of a lot of the players we talked about, Peter Ferguson, Ray Stevens, a lot of players. Ricky Keig, there's another name. Whatever happened, Ricky Keig? I remember him in your day, Michael, and super doubles player. My goodness, but just stopped. A lot of these players that was it.
There was the dumb thing.
It was unless you were going back into the game to carve out maybe a coaching career or something else. But for sure,
I made a selective comeback in, I don't remember what year it was, 2008, 9 or something like that, because I was coaching the Tipperary Class 2 team, and it was always my intention to play, but I never wanted to give the game away to anybody, not even our own players, because I didn't want people knowing that I was going to play. I wanted the message that I was already coaching. And I know the guys in Tipperary were kind of wondering and asking, and I remember I was travelling to Dublin with actually practicing a bit with Mark at the time on weekends and the QT to get a bit of sharpness back. But I remember the night before the Class 2, I called the guys together and I said, look, tomorrow's the day, or Friday's the day. I think it was a Wednesday before the Saturday. And they said, look, we really need to know our team. And I said, right, here's our team. And before I named the team, there's something you need to know. So I named the team and I said, I'm actually playing and I have been practicing because I didn't want people knowing. And the difference between me playing and not playing was whether Tipperary won the Class 2 or not. I didn't win all my matches. I won all my doubles, I didn't win all my mix. But the difference between me playing and not was that everybody got shoved down a level. which meant that we were much stronger at second and third in the team. And we won the All-Ireland Class 2, which was, I think it was 2008, 2009. So that's been the only time that I've really kind of made any kind of a comeback, you know.
Wow, that is fantastic. I'd say very few of our listeners know that.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story.
To think that you were competitive there back in 2008, 2009. So it's only a decade ago, Michael, since you've really been off the court. Let's face it. You know, maybe we'll have another comeback from Michael O'Mara. 102 caps. What? Maybe 103. Michael, the Nationals are on in about 10 days. Maybe throw in a form. It closes in. Well, it'll be closed by the time our listeners hear this. But
no, I don't think so.
Okay, well, we've got Michael O'Mara here on the Badminton Talk podcast, sponsored by the Q Shuttle. Okay, Mark, I think you're going to ask the next question.
Yeah, Mike, I was always fascinated. To me, you were always an incredibly powerful player. Your leg strength, your ability to jump high, you moved very quickly. And there must have been a secret to it. I think strength and conditioning, again, you might have alluded to it. Aidan Murray was a little bit ahead of his time. He probably identified that as an important area. But maybe just talk to me about your strength and conditioning program and why do you think that's so important for badminton?
Really good question.
Well, I suppose it was back in the day when strength and conditioning, you know, people didn't know what strength and conditioning was. It was all about running laps and running and, you know, and running some more. That's what training was basically get out there and run. And I would have done quite a bit of running when I was younger. And who would have been a particular influence to me was the late and most definitely very great Mary Bryan. Mary took me under her wing when I was a teenager, long before I moved to Dublin.
Wow.
And she would have set a training program for me. So she had me running things like 2 5Ks. You'd run one, you'd rest for maybe 5 minutes, and then you'd do another one. The whole idea was about recovery times and stuff like that. And she would have had certain kind of exercises thrown in as well. So Mary was the first one really to kind of take an interest in me and kind of guide me, mentor me, and also, you know, tell me, well, tournament in a month's time, enter you and that, come up, stay with me, you know, and stuff like that. So Mary Bryan would have been a good influence on my training in that perspective. But I'd also say my dad, God rest him, was a national standard handball player, and again his training would have just been running, and you know, so I would have done a bit of running because that's what he would have talked about in basically in the field across the road from where I lived. But also, I suppose when you're playing hurling and you're training hurling and football with the local team, that kind of helps you as well. So I mean, that would have been the strength and conditioning.
Well, there we have to leave it. We didn't even hear what Michael O'Mara was just about to say, but that's why we like to tease our listeners here on the Badminton Talk podcast, sponsored, of course, by the Q Shuttle. Mark, well, what do you think of that so far with Michael O'Mara? Impressive stuff?
Absolutely. I was really fascinated to hear him talk just a bit at the end there about the strength and conditioning and the influences, the people that influenced his life, who took an interest in him. Mary Bryan was an absolute legend in Irish badminton and also in coaching. She influenced an awful lot of really good players through the Irish badminton scene, mentored them, looked after them. A real legend of Irish badminton, Mary Bryan.
Yeah, Mary Bryan. We will have to talk more about some of the greats at some stage in the past, Mark. Michael, do you think he'd make a politician?
Yes, you seem to. Yes.
Or president? President Michael O'Mara? Does a ring to that?
Yeah.
I'm giving him a compliment here now. I'm not taking the Michael out of the Michael, you know?
No. Michael is Michael. He's an outgoing extrovert, loves chatting to people. Yes. If that's what you think a politician is, I suppose it is an attribute of a politician. You need to be an outgoing extrovert. But that's just Michael. I don't think he's necessarily a politician, John.
No, well, he's certainly not only his sporting prowess, but he's good with the money. The banker, he's good with the money.
Yes, well, that is his profession. He's been a banker all his life, so I would suspect he's very good with money.
Yeah. Mark, I'm just looking here at today, obviously, is the 23rd of October, September. I won't say October, September. And I see one of his friends, Colm O'Neill. I don't know if you remember, Colm O'Neill says he looks forward to listening in to Michael. Obviously, we know that is going to happen this coming Saturday. And he's saying to me here that he says that he's really enjoyed those days. He had great groups of players, very talented, motivated, dedicated and focused. It was a privilege, Colin says, to be a small part of it. He got so much from playing and the friends that he made. He's always really grateful for it. And he says, give my best to Michael. So we're giving Colin's best to Michael on the Badminton Talk podcast. Do you remember Colm O'Neill?
Colin, yes, I do. I think Colin was big into football. He's from the Coleraine area. I think he looks after underage football teams. Big into Coleraine Football Club up north, right up on the north coast. And fine. I have a memory of a left-hand badminton player. Hit it hard, moved well, trained well. I think he had maybe moved to Dublin for a bit of work.
Yes.
And then has moved on from Dublin. I'm not sure how many years, but I wasn't in Dublin at the same time as him.
You're feeling another podcast coming on with Colm O'Neill now in the future? Well, that'll be maybe season 22, year 2022. Yes. Mark, the clock is running down here on the Badminton Talk podcast, and we're going to, obviously our listeners will been thrilled to hear part one with Michael O'Mara. And just to briefly announce, Mark, that from the first Saturday of November, we are going to do review of the month and review ahead. Are you excited about that?
Yeah, it's an idea we're playing around with John. On the first Saturday of every month, we'll look back over the previous month's results and cast our expert eye over it and have a look at the results to see who's rising, maybe who is falling backwards a bit, maybe needs a bit of a bump up. And then we will look forward to the tournaments to come in the following month and review them, and we'll discuss who might win some of these tournaments, and we'll make some predictions. We'll probably be proved totally wrong, but let's make some predictions.
We shall see who's rising high, as Sinatra would say, in April and shot down in May.
Yes.
Rising high in October, shot down in November. And the Nationals is on at beginning of November, so we'll be able to talk a bit about that. We'll be able to review that when we do a review of a month, starting not till Saturday the 6th of November. So we still have a couple of weeks ago. That's going to be very exciting, Mark. God, that's going to be something to listen to. And that's going to be on once every month, is it? The start of every month?
Yeah, I think we're talking to do that every Saturday. The first Saturday of every single month, we'll review the previous month's results and look forward with anticipation to the next month's tournaments. Yeah, anything exciting happening in the badminton world. Yeah, Ireland.
And Mark, I'm going to have you on the spot here. It's only about a minute to go. Who do you fancy for the national title in the men's?
In the men's singles?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I think Nat has to be the favourite. Although I think there's going to be a good challenge coming. There's some very promising
juniors coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nat really should be the strong favourite.
Yeah, exactly. Unless we could kind of put something into his tea or something, and slow him down.
That sounds,
I know,
most unsporting, John.
Giving him a compliment. He'd probably still win. And in the ladies, what do you think about the ladies singles?
Yeah, that's maybe a slightly more open event. But Rachel Dara, given her world ranking.
Yeah. She won it a couple of years ago, didn't she? She hasn't won it in a few seasons.
Actually, I must go back and have a look.
I think it's Kate and Sarah have won the last two between them.
Have they?
And
I'll just have a look. You could be right, John. But I'll plump for Rachel Dara.
You'll plump for Rachel Dara, a plug for her, and we'll all plug, of course, as well for Nat here on the Badminton Talk podcast, brought to you by the Q Shuttle. Mark, we're just about out of time. So we're going to have Michael Part 2 next week. Excited about that? 10 seconds?
Absolutely. Always interesting man to listen to. Can learn an awful lot from Michael O'Mara.
Yeah, anyone, as I said, with an O'Mara name from Tipperary, one has to be careful. Well, Mark, have a great weekend. Doing anything? 5 seconds?
Not much. Haven't had any thoughts yet. Probably walking.
Walking. Okay, you walk. We'll chat again next week. See you, Mark.
Bye, John.